Hi. My name is Maria Gaspar, and I'm an interdisciplinary artist based in Chicago and a 2015 Visual Arts awardee. I was 12 years old when I first visited the largest architecture of my neighborhood in Chicago. It's called the Cook County Jail. I grew up a few blocks away. The visit was part of a Scared Straight program meant to discourage at-risk youth from juvenile crime by scaring them straight. I was unaware that I was at risk until that time. And for those of you who are not familiar with the Scared Straight program, it was a program developed in the 1970s in the US. Totally a failure. I was struck by the number of black and brown men, folks that resembled my family, friends, and community, the people I cared about. But at the time, I had no understanding about the prison industrial complex. And years later, I'd come to reflect on the following. How does the location of this jail coexist, clash, and work against my family, friends, and my students? How does it frame or stigmatize the identity of an entire neighborhood and an entire society? And to grapple with these questions, my creative capital project, Out of Field, is a series of sound pieces that investigate the brutality of the jail's proximity while offering a more humanizing perspective on incarceration. Essentially, it's about deconstructing a place of power and powerlessness by using personal stories and sound recordings as resistance tactics. If you're not familiar with the Cook County Jail, it's the largest pre-detention facility in the country. It is not a prison. 95% of people are awaiting trial. It's located in the Lawndale communities of Chicago's West Side. There are over 100,000 detainees every year, and just outside that wall, there are 80,000 working-class residents, mostly Mexican immigrant and black communities, living and working around the 96 acres of jail compound. That's the equivalent of 74 American football fields. Most are in for nonviolent offenses or what the sheriff calls crimes of survival. As an artist working in Lawndale for over a decade, I'm from there, so it's a personal project. I choose not to present gun violence statistics or poverty graphs, the ones we know and hear about often in places like Chicago, but rather I will instead focus on the resilience and radical imagination of people who are working against oppressive systems of power. Sorry. My heroes, the ones we don't hear about enough. Critical to my practice is a solidarity movement made up of students and families. People like my mother, pictured on the left, a community radio DJ in the late 80s at the Boys and Girls Club, who hosted a radio show about topics like health and poetry for Spanish-speaking immigrant communities. These kinds of examples form my notion around the politics of space and people power. And in working with many collaborators, we've asked ourselves, how do we create spaces of belonging? How can we create spaces of freedom? Especially within spaces that are so divided, where borders are fixed, heavy, and painful. Who is looking and who is not looking, and why? In order for Out of Field to be successful, I began the groundwork with many collaborators 3 years ago and formed 96 Acres. So I will present research and a few process-based works about the jail that preface my creative capital project. In 2013, my first audio documentary about the visibility and simultaneous invisibility of the jail, where I interviewed childhood friends and neighbors about their personal experience, started off this project. And up to this point, it led me to looking at the psychogeography of the site, the way the yearly Mexican Day Parade sets up floats along a main segment of the jail wall, making it a kind of backdrop, performing a sort of disappearing act, or other informal architectures, such as the Carnival Festival, that runs along the jail every summer. Is this the wrong location for the carnival? And in what direction are people looking? The project is not just about the outside looking in, but it also includes the inside looking out. And we ask ourselves, what is being negotiated? In 1970, B.B. King performed a legendary concert in the jail yard. This large yard has now become 4 smaller units to house and watch and surveil more men. This year includes a series of site interventions such as actions and temporary installations with many collaborators, like a projected animation on the jail wall that tells a story about love and loss between an incarcerated father and his daughter. How does this jail directly impact families? In valuing the voice and role that young people have in the community, we asked them to generate short texts that were then reverse graffiti stenciled onto the jail wall using a power washer. They removed dirt to reveal language, making the wall malleable. And here's a short video.
I think it's getting people to think about it like the jail's here, it's my backyard, but like doing this is like, you know, it's starting to get your thoughts like, yo, yeah, why do we have a jail like right here? And this community and like that makes so much money has something like this here, you know? And we don't have a museum.
We use the pressure washer in the neighborhood usually to remove graffiti. And this is interesting because this is like reverse graffiti. So I really love this idea to use it to put a positive message just by cleaning.
Seeing like, oh, today's your day, it might just change your thought on something that just happened or something like an argument you might have had with a loved one in there.
When you look at the jail, you see people, but you don't see them as a person. You see them as someone that did something bad, someone that's just bad to society and deserve to be the place they are. But sometimes things that people don't really do bad things to be in there.
Part that she says sometimes people don't do bad things to be in there. So we piloted a community audio archive that documented the range of experiences that are often unheard and overlooked. This ongoing work puts my Creative Capital project out of field in a critical moment. Not only has the work been gaining collective momentum in the community and in Chicago, but also the issue has gained more attention across the country, as we know from a lot of my other friends in the audience. Making it urgent for us and everyone to imagine a world that doesn't build more prisons, but unbuilds them collectively. Obama was just declared the first sitting president to visit an American prison. The production of these new audio works will not only serve as important documentation, but will work to destabilize the space and offer counter-narratives that reign over misperceptions. And I want to know, how can sound transcend borders? I'm hoping Out of Field can do that. With already established community support from the Sheriff's Office, I will need, next slide, sound engineering support, advising on radio programming and an online podcast format, publication support that documents this long-term project, new collaborations that extend nationally and beyond, structural support for launching a new community art laboratory, opportunities to exhibit and share the Soundworks with a variety of audiences. The community is not a monolith, but it is indeed a place of critical pedagogy and knowledge, and with your support, Out of Field will translate the surreal space to create new opportunities for solidarity and radical ways of imagining the world we want to live in. And I want to thank Ruby and everyone at Creative Capital for this incredible opportunity. Thank you.